Hey everyone, welcome back. It is really good to be here with you. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Solstice, all of the above. You know, I used to really despise winter since learning about sunlight and the superpower abilities of UVB light. However, I will say yes, UVB light is amazing and I love it to this day, and I celebrate December 21st like it's the best day of the year because it kind of is to me because the light is returning. Um, However, I want to say, and I just want to put it out there, that sometimes the message around sunlight is that if you aren't in UVB light 365 days a year, then you'll die. And I mean, damn, that's a stressful way to think and live. And don't get me wrong, during the beginning stages of healing my TBI, I spent um, the first 2 years, especially when I was first learning about sunlight, therapeutic roles of sunlight, when I was experimenting with the Sunlight RX. I spent the first 2 winters in Mexico and in very sunny places that had UVB availability in the winter months. I'm not gonna lie, I made heaps of progress, leaps and bounds with healing my TBI, and I just could feel, it was a very palpable feeling that my brain was healing. It was healthier, it was feeling so much better, so much different. And this was incredibly helpful. And I'm gonna also say, because sometimes in the beginning stages of our healing, especially something that's really chronic and debilitating, like my TBI was for many years until I discovered sunlight, but sometimes in the beginning stages, the therapeutic dose of sunlight and one's exposure to sunlight in order to really make these leaps and bounds with their health using sunlight therapeutically, the window of time that you spend in sunlight, the longer typically the better, especially in the beginning stages of your healing. So I put this out there to inspire you all to, of course, practice your Sunlight RX. And if you're struggling with a chronic condition, to commit to the therapeutic range in each 4 steps of the Sunlight RX, which is, at least 60 minutes in each range, each of the 4 steps. Of course, the last step you can get away with, just being in that step for a few minutes to reap the benefits. If you're like, what's the Sunlight RX? You can go to my site, heathershepard.com, and at the header, you can purchase a copy of the Sunlight RX ebook, which is quite likely the lowest investment that you'll have to make with regard to your health, with the biggest payout, the biggest return on investment. Honestly, it was for me. And now I also want to bring in this other side. I also want to say it has been incredibly helpful for me to embrace the cold over the past, several years as well during the winter months, and to live in sync with the short days of winter, to change my diet with the waning of the UVB light, and to engage in other modalities when UVB light isn't available. And I've really, especially I feel this year, and I've been doing this for a while, but especially this year, I feel like this has been a very supportive practice. Take less stress off of, like, we can create more inflammation in our body just by being stressed. We can create a block to healing in our body just by being stressed. And I know a lot of the message in the mitochondrial world, especially if you especially the message by Dr. Cruz is like, balls to the wall. If you're not in Mexico or Florida this winter, then good luck. It's grim. It's not going to work for you. It's just, you're going to go down, you're going to collapse. was like, really, like, come on, we can do some other things. And so for the past several years, and I think this year I've really committed to it more. I think because we have a home, we're grounded. Um, and in past years, we've been looking for home and searching for home and being in the sun and focusing on our healing. This year, I've really been engaging in other modalities during the winter months, like alternating hot water soaking with cold plunging, and some mild sauna work. I say mild because while it may seem like the perfect time to sweat and be in a sauna during the winter when it's cold, actually sweating too much and losing too much many fluids in the winter months can be depleting. So that's why I said mild sauna work. But this routine I have of hot water soaking, cold plunging, some mild sauna work, and just even a couple days a week of doing this has been incredibly rejuvenating for me this winter. So I just want to put it out there that if you're down and out because you can't get enough UVB this winter, there are plenty of things you can do to support your circadian biology, your health, your healing, your mitochondrial health. Um, you know, that of course UVB is amazing, but other than UVB light. So, and let's say you're somebody who, man, I don't like cold therapy, or I get overheated easily. Well, find the key is to finding a modality and a practice that really works for you and that's really supportive to you. I love this alternating hot, cold, a little bit of sweating because it really helps to, it's like taking your immune system to the gym in a sense. So that's something that I've personally found be very helpful for me and my healing and supporting my health this winter. Now, something else that I want to talk about here today and throughout the episode here is another aspect of another practice that you may consider implementing to support your health this winter and beyond is discontinuing taking glandular supplements and organ meat supplements if you are already doing so. Now, I know you might be thinking, wait, what? I thought you were going to say start taking glandulars, Heather, and you know, I am all about medical choice, medical freedom. You can do whatever your heart and soul desires, honestly. But today I am not going to be, I'm going to be talking about my concerns with these supplements. And I don't take them, I don't recommend them to my clients. And during today's episode, I'm going to talk about why I'm not a fan of glandulars. I'm going to give you alternative to glandulars and organ supplements. And for those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, Heather, WTF is a glandular. I'll share with you what this is and what to look out for if you have been taking these for some time. Okay, before I dive into the episode, I want to let you all know that I have a new homeopathic practitioner training course coming available this January. And if you're interested in learning more about homeopathy, if you want to study this medicine from a classical standpoint, and if you're wanting to learn how to understand and utilize this medicine to approach acute and chronic conditions with your family, with your clients, then this training will prepare you to do exactly that. You can learn more about the training over at my site, heathershepard.com. Go to the homeopathy tab and you'll see the practitioner training page where you can read more about that there. And I'm also going to start, my goal is to start doing some more Instagram lives on homeopathy, particularly classical homeopathy, just to help bring more education to this medicine. While it's becoming more widely known, the sense and hit that I get is it's not widely understood. And literally, I had a client, a new client yesterday, and she came into my practice and she's like, I don't even know how to say the word homeopathy. She didn't know, I don't even know what it means. I don't even know what this is. but she knew that from connecting with my work and doing a little research around my work, that she knew that this was a different approach. This approach was um, different than other practitioners were offering her, with the sense of individuating the treatment and getting to the root cause and addressing the emotions and the trauma and that aspect of health and healing. And so I was like, I love that you went with your intuition. And also, I'm going to help educate people more just with regard to this medicine, so they better understand how it's used, what it's capable of, how it got, lost through the cracks over the years, and it's now making a comeback. It's now, this medicine is now gaining more popularity, and I want to help to support that and support your understanding of this medicine, because honestly, it is, what it's capable of is astounding. It's really, really impressive of what homeopathic medicine can help support with regard to mental health, emotional health, physical health, and so forth. So stay tuned. I'm going to put up some more Instagram lives this 2024 about this topic. Lastly, we are so excited, and meaning we, my wife and I, are so excited to have opened our in-person and online farm store. We have available vitamin D rich lard from our pigs that we render the lard in small batches at a very low temperature. We have whipped body butter, thanks again to our pigs. We have some farm merch, and for a limited amount of time, we have my handcrafted chocolate bars as well. And you can learn more about our farm. You can purchase some of our nourishing farm foods, and even read the, how would I call it, the witty and I think hilarious farm blog that my wife writes a couple times per month over at ojoconejo.com, ojoconejo.com. Okay, let's get this party started around glandulars, huh? Now, I sense what some of you are thinking are, hey, Heather, I thought we were supposed to eat more organs. I thought we were supposed to consume more glands, more animal foods. And I will say, yes, absolutely we are. But there's some buts. There's some additional things due to the modern world and how effing crazy it is that we have to consider before just diving in. Because, I'm going to admit, I'm going to say, and I'm sure many of you know this, that I'm a big fan of grass-fed organ meats. I'm all in favor of liver pate. I'm even game for some giblet meatballs and organ meat burgers. Yes, yes, yes to all of that. But let's fine tune this. Let's get a little bit specific around our organ meats, around our organ consumption, around glandulars, right? Because first, no matter if you're eating organ meats or you're, via liver pate, or you're making a burger with ground up liver, a kidney and heart added to it, or if you're taking organs or glandulars in supplement form, we have some very important things to consider. One, maybe one of the biggest considerations, we want to know if the animal was vaccinated. Now, you might be thinking, oh, this is nitpicky, Heather. What the fuck? I got to think about something else. Honestly, we do have to think about something else, because the modern world is insane and goes to extreme measures when it comes to caring for their animals and food they grow and so forth. And many people they have so many animals or so many acres that it becomes unmanageable, and then disease breaks out or this or that, or they need to vaccinate or medicate their animals, and then just so they can keep up with their farm. And then who maybe they benefit financially from that, but we don't benefit from that type of practice. So for starters, we want to know, was the animal vaccinated? The human body and animals, there's this innate intelligence, right? we take measures to try and protect ourselves. We know that the body has multiple detox organs that where their main duties are, hey, removal of toxins, remove this from the body, it does not belong, it's harmful. The most common areas of the body that store toxins and or that are susceptible to toxin overload include the fatty tissue, right? The adipose tissue, the kidneys, the livers, the glands. Now, we all are aware, especially the paleo community, the mitochondria community, the carnivore community, the keto community. These communities really encourage the dietary practices, and so do I in my ancestral health practice and course. Really emphasize and encourage eating, consuming wholesome animal products. So I'm all in favor of that. Yes, we need these. Yes, we should be eating these. However, we need to take our animal consumption one step further, in my opinion, due to modern idiots. Okay. And I don't mean like literally who vaccinate their animals and treat their animals in ways where they use prescriptions. I'm going to give you an example here because we know that many dairy cows, for example, are injected with RBGH, which is a genetically modified hormone, bovine growth hormone, that triggers the cow to produce more milk. Okay? So, it's not enough for the cow to be able to produce milk for us. We need the cow to produce more milk for us, and not for us, for the guy whoever has the farm with thousands of cows, right? We need her to produce more milk. Inject her with RBGH. You don't even have to disclaim it on the label. Just do it. You literally don't. You don't have to disclaim it on the label. Now, a dairy cow will reach peak milk production, so it will have the largest output volume around week 6 after she has calved. So this is the time where some dairy farmers will say, oh, this is a golden opportunity to go in, inject this RBGH in an attempt, and with success, to prolong the peak milk production period. Let's get as much out as we can, right? Let's just milk her to the bone. Let's pump her up with hormones. People do the same thing with chickens, where they'll leave the light on in their chicken coops or industrial. If you're getting industrial eggs, forget it. They're using fluorescence all night long, and the chicken doesn't have any idea if it's night or day. No clue. But some people will keep a light on at night in their hen house because this encourages them to what? Lay more eggs, even during the winter months, even during the cold months, when they're supposed to lay less eggs, when their eggs are supposed to be smaller. We're always trying to outsmart nature, and we can't outsmart nature. We think we can, and these practices where we try to outsmart nature are just, they're harmful. They're harmful to us, they're harmful to the animals. And just think about the hen in the hen house, when you put the light on at night and it messes with its hormones. That's exactly what it does to us as well. It messes with our hormones. So, now, I also really want to, get this one though. This was, oh man, I read this the other night because I'm reading up on, it's my first time owning a Jersey cow. She's in milk. We're about to dry her out in just a few days to prepare her for her calf that she's going to birth in February, right? It's going to be her second calf. And so I'm reading up on how to care for Jersey cows and, reading about them and their heritage and so forth. And so I read this thing last night where it's like farmers who keep hundreds to thousands of cattle, dairy cattle, um, all of the milk just pools into one big stainless steel tank vat, huge vat, and all the milk they milk them. They milk them on really heavy duty, hardcore machines where the humans don't even have to really be present, which is the cause of mastitis. And if the cow has mastitis, you're not supposed to add that milk to the vat. They don't know if the cow has mastitis or not until they go up and look at it, maybe a week after she's had mastitis. And the only way she gets mastitis is if you milk her with an artificial milker and you're not there paying attention to, oh, she's done milking, and they milk her. They milk her past the point of the milk being in her milk bag. And so then they just keep on pumping it out, but there's nothing there. That's the main cause of mastitis. But all of this milk, this is what I'm going back to, just gets pooled into this huge vat, this huge stainless steel vat. And it doesn't matter. Let's just be clear on the standards. Like, typically this is mainly going to be conventional milk, but there are some big organic milk companies who will adhere to the same practices. And let's say they're like, oh, shoot, we missed it. Bessie has mastitis. Looks like she's had it for at least a few days, maybe a week. Let's give her some antibiotics, and the milk tank is probably contaminated, so just pour a little chlorine bleach into the tank. I am not shitting you. Some farmers will do this. And because there's so much milk in that tank, sure, it goes down to the like parts, how many parts per million of chlorine is there in the milk. I want my milk to have 0 parts per million of fucking bleach in my milk. So, this is just one example of how farmers treat their animals, especially on a large scale. And then these are things most people don't know about, and they just consume milk because we're taught, milk is healthy, but there's context here. There's context with the glandulars here. And what I'm getting at is that many animals today, whether they're raised organically or on pasture or in a feedlot, most of the cattle are vaccinated. Most of the animals are vaccinated. Swine are also vaccinated. Again, this is why we not only have a dairy cow in our backyard, but we have pigs in our backyard. And pigs can receive several vaccines over the course of their life. And then we can sell this meat in the store as organic meat. They don't discriminate here whether vaccine doesn't make it organic or not. It doesn't. An antibiotic doesn't make it organic or not. Lambs are vaccinated around 1 month of age. So, really interesting thing here also is that rumor used to have it, well, in fact, I think it still does today, that if you don't vax your cows for TB, for tuberculosis, you will place those drinking its milk at risk of getting TB. Right? So because the cow's now more susceptible to TB, so let's vaccinate it, because if somebody drinks that milk and the cow has TB, they're gonna get tuberculosis. This is a very interesting finding, and any of my homeopathic students listening, or anybody who is aware of homeopathy, knows that the homeopathic remedy tuberculinum, what is one of its main keynotes is its strong desire for milk. So this is a very interesting correlation here. So what happens is, then here comes this vaccine for tuberculosis. I am, this is insane, because come to find out, This was never an issue, cows having tuberculosis, until they started actually administering the TB vax to cows. And until it's this kind of like chickens have get the bird flu, and so then they tried to convince us that we're going to need to develop some vaccine for us to prevent us from getting bird flu. And the shit show has gone on for ever, right? Now, so the interesting thing is that some people who consume a lot of milk from cows that have been treated with the TB vaccine, especially the closer they drink so let's say the cow got the TB vax. Just forget YouTube for this podcast. I'm so sorry, but that's how it goes. But so the closer to you consuming the milk, with regard to when the cow received the vaccine. So let's say the cow received the TB vaccine yesterday, and you drink that milk the day after, the day of, a couple days after, the more likely are you're going to start to have TB symptoms, or just be a tuberculinum in homeopathy. So we have to understand that these delicious and nutrient dense areas of the animal that were amazing for our ancestors will also, I should say, will only be amazing for us if the animal wasn't injected with toxins, with antibiotics, with hormones, with vaccines. Now, as I just want to continue to make it clear that it's not that I'm not a fan of these foods, of raw milk. I mean, of course, I got a dairy cow in my backyard, of pork, of beef, of organ meats. I am 100% all the way on board, and we need these foods, but we have to know what these animals have been through, have been administered, because the toxins of these medicines are going to be stored in the sacred organs and adipose tissue that we so love and value. People often ask me, should I take a liver supplement? My answer is almost always no. But you should eat liver from an unvaxxed animal who spent much of its life outdoors in fresh air with a comfortable bed and away from cell towers. Who in the God's F is going to know if their animal was raised near a cell tower, right? You go into Whole Foods, you're like, I'll take that grass-fed ribeye. You're gonna be like, hey, now we're taking this to a whole new level. People thought we were crazy before, asking if like the salad dressing had vegetable oils in it. But now you're like, hey, is that cow raised near a cell tower? People are gonna be like, what the F is wrong with this person? Like, who's gonna ask that in Whole Foods, where they have now, you just scan your palm to just pay your bill, just get a little scan, just scan the palm, right? Just like Elon Musk, the palm, you know. So this may seem over the top, and of course we have to make decisions that are that reduce stress in our life at the same time. So, obviously, it's going to be almost impossible to find out if your cow, if the beef you're buying from Whole Foods was raised near a cell tower or was vaccinated, right? But here's the thing. If we bring more attention to this, what will happen is we'll eventually and gradually stop buying as much meat from Whole Foods. We'll then have a new reason as to why we should seek out local farmers and actually know where the meat was raised and how it was raised. And ultimately, we'll be supporting our local community, our local economy, and our health at the same time. So, you know, let's go back to this liver supplement thing because I know many people take a liver supplement. If you take a liver supplement, let's say you take it every day or most days for years, months even, this adds up. This adds up. If the cow was vaccinated, if the cow was exposed to toxins, this adds up, right? That toxicity is going to, where's it going to end up? Well, it's going to end up in your liver. Now your liver has to deal with it. It's like this vicious cycle continues. If you slather your skin in beef tallow for years from a cow who's been, raised, who's been vaccinated and so forth, this adds up. If you eat pork, porcine thyroid, if you take this glandular and the pig was vaxxed or exposed to heavy metals, how could a pig be exposed to heavy metals, Heather? Is the pig in a mining town? What's in the groundwater? I know this is like holy shit, nitpicky. This is the shit that I think about though. This is like, if we really want to talk about what's an ancestral diet, we have to clean up that definition, because an ancestral diet, one is, of course, animals, wild seafood, it's seasonal eating, it's eating within the seasons, it's eating locally, it's eating animals that have not been treated with bullshit, with vaccines, with antibiotics, etc. That is what a real ancestral diet is. Our ancient ancestors, there weren't any vaccines, there weren't antibiotics. Now, let's see. Where, let's talk about this for a minute. Let's talk about the thyroid, okay? The thyroid tends to be very susceptible to blue light, to damage from artificial blue light. And you'd think the thyroid gland would be more protected, right? Oh, it's so on the external, it's so on the surface, it's so susceptible to blue light. Why isn't it more protected? But in humans, this the layer of fat surrounding it is pretty thin. However, we were never designed to have our thyroids exposed to artificial light all day and night. So, where am I going with this is because people who take glandulars, thyroid, porcine thyroid, etc., the thyroid also tends to be this area of the body that's susceptible to heavy metal toxicity and begins to malfunction when there's a pathogen overload in the body that has been suppressed with multiple rounds of antibiotics or steroid drugs like prednisone. Okay. This I talk about extensively in my ancestral health course and the training there. But we have to consider this, because somebody taking a glandular like thyroid, well, what was the environment that animal was raised in? Because this organ, this tissue, is very vulnerable and susceptible to heavy metals and so forth. So I really, and that's not just in animals, it's in humans as well. So I want to make that point. Now, I also want to divert the conversation back to liver supplementation and taking a liver supplement. because, a lot of people tend to overdo it with regard to supplementation on all levels, not just with liver, but also including liver. Um, and so, one, we overdo it with the supplement, and I'm going to talk more about this in a minute. And if you have issues with iron metabolism, maybe you struggle with anemia or chronic fatigue or pale skin or brittle nails or dizziness or a faint feeling especially when going from lying to rising or sitting to standing, right? Or you have protracted menses where your menses last, 10, 12, 14, 20 days, right? These are a few symptoms that your body's saying something is off with iron metabolism. So, you know, you go to your functional doc or your naturopath with those symptoms, and they're going to tell you to bloodlet. They're going to tell you to donate your blood, and it's like, really? Because that's our life force. There's photon particles from the light in my blood. There's so many nutrients in my blood. That's my vitality and life force. Wouldn't it be a little bit more proactive and sensible to look at the root cause as to why something might be off with your iron? Just me. So, some people will you know, just resort to bloodletting, blood donation, taking an iron supplement, eating less red meat, right? These things are never going to get to the root of why you may struggle with iron metabolism, which is a very hot topic right now. So let's get into this a little bit, and this ties in with liver supplementation. The liver produces the majority of proteins needed for iron metabolism. Okay, so the liver is very involved in iron metabolism. For those suffering with poor iron metabolism and the symptoms that exemplify this, we have to understand that there had to be a trigger. There had to be a trigger that came into your body that messed with this aspect of your health, that messed with your iron metabolism. It's not just like, just happened. No, there had to be a trigger. There always has to be a trigger. Birth control pills, a blood transfusion, some sort of liver toxicity, prescription medication use, maybe you had mono, maybe you had hepatitis, some trigger, okay? Taking liver in supplemental form on a regular basis can lead to a too much is not better situation, and it could really mess with this iron metabolism situation in the liver. And many people today struggle with iron metabolism issues. And I'm going to say it's not because of the copper per se, it's because of past use of suppressives or exposure to toxins or a past condition like hepatitis, a blood transfusion, etc., that has bogged up your liver and restricted its ability to metabolize iron. Antibiotics can cause this situation. 100,000,000% antibiotics can cause this situation. I'm a fan of eating liver. Okay, of course, yeah. I want to make sure, as often as we're able, that animal wasn't vaccinated. Why? Because the toxins from the vaccine, where's one key place it's going to be stored? In the liver. So, yes, again, we want to check in about this as often as we're able, and hopefully the cow or the animal lived a happy, healthy life outdoors on pasture with plenty of space to roam. Now, when you eat liver, okay, not in supplement form, here's a big bowl of liver pate in front of you. Your body is going to tell you, it's going to signal to you when enough is enough. When you simply swallow a pill, you don't actually activate all of the components of your digestive tract. You activate hardly zero. Hardly any of them. Taste, taste buds, saliva, stomach acid, flavor. Humans have anywhere from 2,000 to 10,000 taste buds. The less prescription medications you're on, the more diverse your diet, the more diverse your diet was as a kid, like, please, for the love of God, let's help that situation. The less cigarettes and marijuana you smoke, the less you vape, the less taste buds you'll have. The more antibiotics you've taken, the less taste buds you'll have. Who cares? Well, you want to be on the higher end of the taste bud scale. This increases the amount of digestive juices your body produces. It increases the amount of HCl your stomach produces. It supports the proliferation of beneficial bacteria strains in your gut. It improves protein digestion. And the more taste buds you have, the better the receptors on your tongue work. This is a big deal. This is a part of health that isn't often explored or talked about, but it's a really this is the beginning stages of the digestive process. We often look at the end part, oh, you don't have enough beneficial bacteria. Well, whoa, let's slow this story down and go back to the beginning. So this the amount of taste buds you have is really a big deal, and don't like, oh, I'm gonna go, don't even look for if there's a test for that. Just diversify your diet and eat seasonally and so forth to help support this process. Okay. This is a big deal because the more receptors that are activated on your taste buds, the better your nutrient absorption and assimilation will be, and the more serotonin and other neurotransmitters are released and produced in the gut. Um, and we know these play huge roles when it comes to digestion, when it comes to absorption, when it comes to the assimilation of foods. So honestly, this is one reason why I'm not a fan of long-term strict dieting, no matter what the health claims are, or the diet, is it carnivore, keto. These are restrictive diets, and restricting foods reduces the amount of taste buds that you have, and which ultimately compromise your digestion down the line. Now, some of these dietary approaches can be supportive in the short term. I'm not like saying never do any of them, but if we use it as a crutch for the rest of our lives, it's going to have a side effect. So that was kind of a long side note to say that when you eat liver, your body releases certain enzymes, digestive juices, your taste buds are activated, and your satiation signals are much more alive and active and engaged versus when you take a supplement or a pill. So go for the real deal and try to source it from unvaxxed, unmedicated animals. Now I know I talked about the thyroid a little bit, but the last thing I wanna mention here today is about taking a glandular like thyroid and adrenals. Because I know that's a widely practiced thing as well. Yeah, like, before I go there though, if you're like, wait a minute, I take this glandular every so often. It's not a big deal. You want some support? Email the company and ask them if if their cows or whoever the supplement comes from, if they're vaccinated. They'll tell you. They'll try to, like, oh, only unless they're sick do we vaccinate. You can bet you they vaccinate, so that's a hard no. If they say no, that's a really strong no for us, and there are some companies like that, then amazing. Be on your way, and I have less of an issue taking those. But the gold standard is eating these foods for all of those reasons I just mentioned, with regard to your taste buds, your digestion, your etc. So, you know, um As I mentioned, I'm concerned with heavy metals in the thyroid glands because the thyroid gland tends to be a magnet for heavy metals. A lot of people who've had amalgam fillings often have sluggish thyroid function as a side effect of this. And this is because the heavy metals bind to the thyroid receptor sites, leaving no space for thyroid hormone or iodine or vitamin D, to name a few, to bind to, right? And these things make the thyroid function optimally. So when this doesn't happen, and instead heavy metals are preoccupying the receptor sites, then this is going to produce symptoms of a sluggish thyroid. And not only that, but we have been trained to think about our health. This is an addition to the heavy metals, but we've been trained to think about our health in a very linear way. If something's off with your thyroid, just take a thyroid glandular supplement. Man, I wish healing doesn't work this way. It just doesn't. It's like if you're constipated, take a laxative. Um, no, that doesn't heal. That's never going to get to the root of it. It's never going to get to the root problem. This is treating via, the law of opposites. When, let's say, you're constipated, take a laxative. Now this may seem like the more of a law of similars by, if your thyroid's off, excuse me, take a thyroid glandular supplement. You're like, oh, that's more of a like cures like homeopathic thing, but not really, because we we have to go deeper than that with regard to our like cures like. It's not just like, oh, somebody comes into my practice with Hashimoto's and I'm going to tell them to take homeopathic thyroid gland. Nah, it's usually not going to work that way, because we have to take the whole picture into consideration, not just one symptom. Not just one symptom. You have to look at, how is this person with poor thyroid function, sluggish thyroid function? Well, in order to understand why the thyroid is sluggish, we have to look at multiple aspects of the body, not just the thyroid. Not just linear things, not just physical things. We need to look at, okay, somebody who has a sluggish thyroid, they're going to express themselves in a very unique way, emotionally, mentally, emotionally. They're going to have very unique physical symptoms. We have to look at the whole picture. It is a trap to think about healing in this way. My thyroid's off, let me just take a thyroid supplement. I have constipation, let me just take a laxative. I have constipation, let me just take magnesium every night. That the only problem with that, with all of those things, well, there's many problems, let's just be real, right? But it's never going to get to the root of the issue. You're not constipated because in every functional doc and every ND will tell you this. You're constipated because your iron metabolism's off and you don't have enough minerals and magnesium. Well, that may be part of the issue, but why don't you have enough minerals? Why is your body not absorbing and assimilating the minerals that you're eating in your diet? Why? What happened to mess that situation up? Just telling somebody to include more minerals in their diet makes me mad. I'm just gonna be honest, makes my blood boil. Let's dig a little deeper, guys. Let's dig a little deeper. Okay. So, here's the thing. You have a sluggish thyroid, you're like, okay, you Google or you go to your ND or functional D, and you're like, all right, take a thyroid glandulars. Yeah, sure, that makes total sense, and it does. Logistically, linearly, yeah, makes sense on paper. But healing doesn't work this way, because your thyroid isn't sluggish because you aren't taking enough glandulars. Your thyroid is sluggish every single time for the following reasons. multiple acutes that have been suppressed starting from a young age. Okay, the pathogens, they don't just magically leave your body with an antibiotic. They bind to where? Receptor sites in your body. They often bind to people who have a genetic predisposition to thyroid issues. They're going to go and find the weakest link. Oh, here it is on the thyroid. I'm going to bind to the thyroid receptor. And so then what happens? Oh, thyroid hormone can't bind there. Iodine, vitamin D can't bind there. So here we go. So every single time we have this situation of multiple acutes that were suppressed, often starting at a young age, and it's almost always a combo, but it doesn't have to be, but heavy metal exposure, particularly amalgam fillings. The heavy metals have kicked healthy molecules off of the cell and take their throne. So all of which will produce symptoms of a sluggish thyroid. So here's your situation. Maybe you've had amalgams, maybe you've had some exposure to heavy metals in your water or environment, maybe you live near a mining town. And so, or maybe you had multiple ear infections or strep throat or something as a child with multiple antibiotics. And you go to your ND and they're like, I'm not going to ask you any of those questions, but I am going to tell you to take a thyroid glandular, right? Let's really fix this problem. I'm laughing because it's so stupid, right? It's like when we really think about these things, it's like doesn't these are the people who are supposed to be some of the most intelligent people on the planet, right? Okay. Lastly, as you can imagine, I don't recommend taking an adrenal gland supplement. Why? Well, this has a lot to do actually with cortisol and overall endocrine hormone function and production. Okay. I do not recommend messing around with the adrenals. I don't recommend adding this to your body in supplement form. I recommend getting your cortisol stores balanced and on point by practicing the Sunlight RX. Okay, mini crash course on the Sunlight RX this is the last thing. Okay. Mini crash course. Okay, so you wake up in the morning and okay, melatonin release is paused for the time being because here comes light. Melatonin is not released when it's light outside. It's a nighttime hormone. Okay, it gets produced and restored in light, but it doesn't get released till nighttime. So here comes the sunrise. Melatonin release paused. Here comes cortisol. Okay, here comes cortisol. Now, cortisol starts if you're practicing your Sunlight RX, you're on step 1 sunrise, you're out in your sunrise, and what's going to happen is cortisol is going to start trickling into your bloodstream. It's not going to come like flood into your bloodstream unless you are staring at your iPhone or answering emails before you go out to the sunrise, or unless you're having like coffee or an espresso before you go out to the sunrise. Those are ways to totally flatline your cortisol levels. So let's say you're doing your Sunlight RX, cortisol is going to start to trickle. It starts a little tiny release, tiny release. Now the sun goes up towards its apex. The closer it gets towards its apex, the more and more cortisol is released in your bloodstream. This is how cortisol should be released. Trickle, and then the valve opens more and more and more, and solar noon, boom. Why? Because cortisol is an antidote to UVB light damage. And if we can offset UVB light damage, what happens is we can obtain all the healing benefits of UVB light. So, here, let's continue on this track so I can help you. Let's complete this situation. So solar noon, here goes. The floodgates are open for cortisol. Now, and the sun's at its apex, now you're going back down, down towards sunset, and then the cortisol starts to move back gradually towards a trickle until that faucet is paused and turned off, and this new valve is opened 3 to 4 hours after sunset, which is melatonin. We can support our cortisol levels with light in that way throughout each and every single day. So, if you're really looking for adrenal support, get off your glandulars. I don't know how that's going to mess up your cortisol levels, but I don't like it. I'm not a fan of it. It can't do what I just described in sunlight right here. It is incapable of doing that, taking a pill. So instead, get in sunlight, practice your sunlight RX, reduce artificial light after dark, and if, let's say this, because this is a common thing, okay? If you've suffered from a shock or trauma, like I did with my brain injury, okay, then sometimes we're going to need other helpful tools to um, offset the shock and trauma so that the cortisol levels can heal even more fully, more deeply, on a more wider range than the sunlight can provide. Sunlight, if you haven't had major, I'm talking major shock or trauma, that sunlight RX is going to be amazing for getting your cortisol level release patterns on point and melatonin, right? If you had shock or trauma and you need some more support because your body will literally start producing symptoms that look like maybe cortisol imbalance, maybe endocrine disruption, maybe heart issues, anxiety, panic disorders, etc. If your body is stuck in this shock or trauma loop. This is where homeopathy shines bright and is exceptionally helpful. And this is one reason why the homeopathy was the missing link for me with as I used it in addition to my sunlight RX, and that was it was like boom, wow, floodgates are open now. So I want to also say that because if you're somebody who you're like, oh, I'm practicing the sunlight RX, I'm doing all the right things, my cortisol is still messed up. It's not the only reason why, but one reason can be that there's some shock or trauma stuck in the system that needs to be addressed. Now, I hope this was somewhat helpful with regard to glandulars and organs and liver, and um, helps to support your health even further going into 2024. I want to thank you all for all of your support this year with the podcast, with my work, with our farm. I so appreciate it. And I'm so very grateful to be working with many of you, teaching many of you in my training and educational programs. And I am so looking forward to continuing this work together this 2024. And this Christmas, if somebody stuffs your stocking with glandulars, albeit it's thoughtful, you may consider tossing them to the compost and going for the real unvaxxed deal. See you all in 2024.